Alright, so let's see how long it takes Twitch to catch up with us. Oh, Twitch caught up with us. That was fast. Let's tell the world about it, and then we'll get started. So, we're just going to finish up the main gameplay loop here, or at least create it in the first place. Creating the main play loop. Indie Dev Procjam. And we'll just go ahead and tell everybody else about it too. Why not? In case you noticed or didn't notice, my neighbor is having a party, and the songs appear to be about 80% cowbell, which is funny, I guess. Maybe it's just that the cowbell is the only thing that carries through the walls. But that's the way of it. Hopefully we'll still be able to play without too much chaos, but we're just going to go ahead and get started, even if there is noise in the background. So the idea behind this is that when you are clicking on a planet and you're going in to see the planet up close, what we're going to do, you put down cities. Each city costs a certain amount of cash, and then these guys over here will bid on the planet. And you're going to be bidding on the planet, not on a city. You can only sell the entire planet to one group. So basically what we've got right now is a setup where every city is considered on its own. We're going to have to create a backbone, a statistical backbone for considering all of the cities. And Elboetchi says, hi. Hello. You're the first person who's come by today. So let's go ahead and get started with our talking heads. Right now we have no concept of something like how much money these groups have and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and create that concept. We're going to go ahead and say that each of these groups has a max bid, which we can adjust later. Let's make it 100 to start with. And that's going to be, like, as a player, your punishment for consistently catering to one group is that the other groups can't afford you anymore. So you're going to want to bid. You're going to want to do things that are within their bidding range, you know? We're going to go ahead and say public float current bid equals 0. So down here, when we do this bid final value stuff, we're going to go ahead and add that to the current bid. And what we're going to want to do is have this current bid actually be a getter and setter. I'll go ahead and work this out here. Public float current bid, get, return current bid, set. And if we set it, what we're going to want to do is make sure that we have a box that we can put our bid in. So in order to do that, we're going to need to ask it to have a box for our bid. So public canvas group bid box, or bid group, and then text box and bid text. So here in bid, what we're going to say is if current bid equals value. If value is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to go ahead and make that a big fat 0 by just hiding the bid entirely. So we're going to say bid group.alpha equals 0. And otherwise, we're going to make sure the bid group is being shown and display the value. So bid group alpha equals 1 and bid text equals the text that we're going to print. Now here's the thing, the text is not quite so straightforward, so we're going to need to have a line that we say, and it's obviously going to start with the bid text. So we'll go ahead and say, with the current bid, right. We'll go ahead and say current bid credits. But if our current bid is equal to or greater than our max bid, we're going to want to make sure that that line really shows something a little bit more special. I can't remember how to do rich text, so let's go ahead and look it up. Unity rich text. The markup format is there we are. It's HTML-like. I could never remember which kinds of brackets they were using. So we're going to want to give this a red color if we are bidding, and we're going to go ahead and say max bid, and then line, and then color. And that way we'll be able to see right away that they are giving us a max bid. And then down here we'll just say equals line. No problem, right? So the other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put a cap on the value. So if value is less than 0, current bid equals 0. If value is greater than or equal to, greater than current bid, greater than max bid rather, current bid equals max bid. And here we'll go ahead and just say current bid. There we go. I mean, I could just go ahead and current bid equals mathf.clamp 0 value 0 current bid or max bid. Yeah, there we are. That's an easier way to type it. Don't have to waste all these if statements. Perfect. So with that in mind, that should actually allow us to see what's going on, except that none of these characters actually have that that bid that we're trying to create, that text box. So we need to create that text box for us. And that's just another kind of panel. So we'll just go ahead and have it pop into existence here. Call this the bid panel. And give it a canvas group. And we're going to want that bid panel to actually show up somewhere. I'm not sure. It's invisible for some reason, which is a little bit odd. It shouldn't be. The robot isn't invisible. It's at 0.7, but it shouldn't be invisible. Oh, it's just 0 size. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to tether it to the right-hand bottom side of our robot, right? And we're going to go ahead and set it up to have a specific set of parameters. So if we go with a 0, there we are. Now we can see it. We'll go ahead and make it 120 wide and 30 tall, thereabouts. And we're going to offset it by -5 so that it matches. And we don't want it to be at the bottom, so we're going to offset this by -5 as well, or 5, I guess. That'll pull it up a little bit. I think we can pull it up just a little bit more. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and make this a bright, cheerful green hue. And instead of being background, we're going to make it a UI sprite. That way it'll be completely opaque. Alboichi says the characters are adorable. They're all animated, so you'll get to see their animations as soon as I start testing this. We're going to want to put a text field inside of that, which we'll just ratchet here, and we'll do left center with a 5 pixel offset, and then we'll go and create some visibility so that we'll be able to read it. We'll go ahead and say max bid 10,000 credits. All right, so that's the width that it needs to be, so let's go ahead and stretch it until it matches that width. There we are. And we'll make it, well, why don't we actually make it a content size fitter? There we are. Content size fitter, horizontal, preferred size, unconstrained. Yeah, that's correct. Now, I don't know why this is... Did I forget how to do this? This should have a specific size, right? Do I have to put a layout element? Huh. Now, I know that this should work, but I've forgotten how to do it. Hold on, let me look it up. Unity, horizontal, stretch, text box, content size fitter. Add a content size fitter to the same game object that has a text component. Okay, so I've got to set this up as a content size fitter. All right. Content size fitter. And make this preferred size. Ah, okay. So that worked, but then this bid panel doesn't seem to have actually taken. What? So I can make the text scale, but not the container? Fit the UI with a child text. Horizontal layout group to the UI element. Okay. Okay, this is... Annoying. They shouldn't be this hard, and I don't remember it being this hard. I wonder whether they changed something or what. But basically, we're just going to go ahead and let the child control our width. I guess we're going to need a layout element. No, hold on. Okay, so this needs a content size filter and a horizontal layout group. Okay. I don't know how or why, but it does. Okay, that worked. How bizarre. But now we can't see it because the pivot is wrong? No? Don't really know what's going on here. Height of 0 might be the problem. It was. Okay. So now we've got that working, but we need to put in some padding. This I can do. There we go. Now it fits. Hurrah. And so now we can try it on for size. We'll go ahead and say max bid 200,000 credits. It expands just fine. Great. So we'll go ahead and just say bid goes here. Perfect. All right. Now we'll go back to the text box. There we are. All right. So this is just a very simple setup where this bid panel is just going to be duplicated to each of our buddies in the other panels. And the problem is we're going to have to keep redoing the exact size offsets and stuff. That's going to be a little annoying, but that's going to, there are worse things in life. Oh, let me sneeze. Straight in. Why is it whenever I sit down to stream? I haven't sneezed in hours. And now, all of a sudden. I believe it's 10? 10, yes. So I just need to go through and make this have a 10 offset for each of these. And what we'll do is we will take all of these objects and correctly nest them into the new values here. So this goes here, this goes here. Oh, that's the normal panel, bid panel, here, and here. Here, and it's a good thing there's only 4 of these. Here. Here. And here. Perfect. All right, so that should now work. The only problem being that right now, they're going to start with these active. So we're going to go ahead and just hide them by default. Perfect. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this works in play mode. So if we wanted to get their bidding, we would go into a planet, zoom in on the planet. All right, and then we can start to populate it. 1.87296 credits, you bet. But now you can actually see, you can see what they care about. We're obviously not going to let that be 85 decimal places. And if we click again somewhere else, we'll get a different set of ratings. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and chop this bid a little bit. mathf.seal to int value. We have absolutely just seal. We don't need to seal to int. We have absolutely no reason to care about that little trailing 0.338964328. That's not going to be of any use. Let's try a different kind of planet this time. Sure takes a little bit of time to draw, but I guess that's okay. Zap. All right. And if we go ahead and click down here, you can see that this person cares, and I expected them to because it's green. Now, if we click on the water, I think that they'll hate us. No, they like it. Toxic sludge. Go, the dark stuff is toxic sludge. That's right. So we are really catering to this one group here. So here's the issue. When we have the same city over and over and over, they just keep upping their bid. So what we're going to want to do is keep track of all of the things that we have gotten out of the city, and only out of all of the cities on the planet, and only take the best value. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new dictionary of string floats. There we are. And so down here in evaluate, we're going to go and, oh, we got it here in ratings actually. So we're just going to adapt this ratings to our new system, which is the resources on planet. So first we're going to go ahead and check and see whether or not it exists already. So if resources on planet dot contains key entry dot key already have some, then we're going to want to do that. Otherwise we'll do this, and it's fairly straightforward. So, oh, that was interesting. So right now we have this thing where we do this final value plus equals entry dot value. That's actually not going to work. We're going to need to calculate these separately. So we're going to have to go through this again at the end. So let's just go ahead and copy this just for a moment here, paste it back in, and we'll just delete all of the things that aren't final value elements, because this is going to be just the raw resource result for the planetary resources. There we are. And we're not going to do that math calculation here, because here is where we are updating the values. If resources on planet entry dot key is greater than key dot value, entry dot value. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. It's getting a little bit annoying. String key equals entry dot key. String or float val equals entry dot val. I'm just having a little of a hard time keeping track of all of these re-references. They're just empty text that we don't need. We'll clear them up. So if the resources on the planet are greater than here, then our dialog is just going to be dialog plus equals. We already have a good site for, and then the resource. So we'll just go ahead and make that key. Else, it's not value, it's just val, that's fine. We'll go ahead and dialog plus equals an even better site for key. And we'll update it. Resources on planet key equals val. And we'll do this exact same thing for downstairs. So if this is the bad resources. These are planets that we don't like. If we hate this planet already, but we hate this site less than the other site, we're just going to go ahead and not say anything. There's not really any purpose in saying, oh, this site isn't quite as bad as the other site, I suppose. Alternately, we can take the best. Yeah, let's go ahead and take the best value, now that I'm thinking about it, because that makes the most sense. What we really want to do is take the best result from both directions. So if our key is less than the value, so hold on. Our value is a negative number and our key is a negative number. So what we want to say is that if the key is less than the negative value, then we currently have a better situation. And we'll say, oh, this isn't as bad for, and then that's fine. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and ignore it. If the value here is worse than the key we've already got, that means that it's worth ignoring. We're just going to go ahead and pretend it doesn't exist. We could mention it, I guess, but I'm not going to bother. And then down here, We go through all of the resources on the planet that we have, we add the values together, and we set it up proper. And that should allow us to get a good continuous bid on a planet's resources. And a begin attack run showed up. Hello, begin attack run. And in addition to having a good continuous bid, it'll also teach the player, hopefully, to try and get like every biome. So for example, if I click here, oh, I've got to zoom in, hold on. Forgot to zoom in. So if I click here, we're going to get a city. And everybody likes the city at least some. So this guy up here, he says that he likes it for mining. This person hates the mining, but really, really likes it for food growth. I'm a little bit surprised at how much they like it, actually, because this is a radioactive planet, but that's fine. But now that we've got that, we can click on, say, one of these bright patches here, and we can see the rest of the bids. And you can see this says, oh, it isn't as bad for mineral, and it's even better for solar. I don't know whether their bid went up. I wasn't looking. And these guys really like the sparklies. And we'll just want to try and find all of the best biomes, and you can see how these guys like it a little bit better here, and these guys do too. But there's not very many biomes on this planet. We can get ourselves, I don't know if this counts as ice or not. Let's try it. Okay, so that counts as mineral. That's fine. And you can see that we can continue to lay down our cities and eventually pick one of the characters that we want to have bid. Now, when we mouse over the character, we would like them to highlight in some way, and currently we don't have a method of doing that. However, these characters are all buttons. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tell the button to use the target graphic of the backdrop. That should be enough for it to register as a button when the player mouses over. And what we'll do is we'll select all of these, and we'll set up their buttons in all the same way. So the normal color is just going to be white. Yeah, that's just white. And the highlighted color, we'll go ahead and make it like a vivid red. And then the pressed color, we'll go ahead and make it like a darker color. And the disabled color, I'm just going to leave it like it is. We'll go ahead and make it. Well, we can do a disabled color. We'll just make it a gray, a dark gray. And what we'll do is in here for our character, we're going to go ahead. Each of the talking heads has a button script on the same. This isn't right. Where's the talking head? Is it up at the top? There it is. So you can see the talking head and the button exist in the same spot. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the button and set it to inactivatable if we don't want the bid. And if we do, we're going to go ahead and activate it. So button B equals get component. Begin attack run says, time for a question. Sure, go ahead. And they also say the procedural planets are looking nice. Thank you. It's coming towards done. Just a day or two left at most. Just got to finish up the actual game part, right? So what we can do is interactable equals false. And then here, we'll go ahead and do the opposite. Interactable equals true. And that should be easy enough to handle. Let's go ahead and try it on for size. Let's pick a planet that's relatively far from home. You can see that as I mouse over, things happen. So I know what the problem is here. I need to turn off the auto nav. Oh, I already turned it off. That's interesting. I wonder how they were automatically navigating then. That's, well, whatever. Go ahead and try them out. You see how, oh, there's a giant text box over here. That's right. Let's just go ahead and make it so those don't actually count towards collision detection. There we go. Better. Okay. So now I only get that if I actually mouse over them, as you can see. So now we can just pick a planet. Let's go ahead and pick this moon back here. Zoom in. I'm going to fix that zoom in too. This is a kind of interesting wispy planet, isn't it? Oh, that's right. I actually screwed up the moons. I might have to redo them. The problem is that I was doing the noise wrong. I misunderstood something about the new noise engine, and so I ended up with moons that look really strange, don't they? A Begin Attack Run says he wants to implement traits system for parties in the world map, i.e. a bandit party is lawless and savage. I have a feeling there's a lot more to that question here. He's thinking he should create a trait class and give it a property which represents which specific trait it is. That way I just code one instance of the trait class per specific trait. Then the question where to store the question is where to store them when considering that all classes will need to retain their references after serialization and deserialization. Well, normally what you would do is your traits would just be strings, and you'd have a class that parses them. So you'd have, for example, a trait class where you would just pass it the name of a trait and the object that it's affecting, or something similar. Having an entire class, a class dedicated to lawless or a class dedicated to savage would generally be considered overkill, unless there is a lot of core logic that needs to go into those. If you think that logic can just be split up into one or two functions or a couple of numbers, then you just need to store the string of the name of that trait, and then you can have the response to that trait, the code that executes, often some static class that doesn't need to worry about it. And of course, strings serialize and deserialize just fine. Although maybe I've misunderstood, who knows. All of them have things they want to do, so we don't get to see any of them grayed out, though. It seems annoying to get off the ground. Really? I might have to change the gravity then, because it shouldn't be. That's this is the least gravity based part. So we're gonna go ahead and change the gravity value because that's obviously not right. They should almost never complain about gravity on the moon unless you're up at the pole. So our gravity does this mathf.clamp, gravity minus 0.3. And I guess I'm just going to go ahead and take a look. Do I have it backwards with this? Is this, it might be that the gravity is just calculating wrong. So debug.log gravity equals plus gravity. And then down here we'll say adjusted gravity. And we'll see what these values actually are. There's the moon. Yoink. Zoom in on the moon. It looks like my solar stuff is a little bit too wishy-washy as well. I need to make it so the planets are a little bit more strict about how far away they are. So this planet has a lot of random colors all over it. Look at this. So first let's click on the equator. Let's go ahead over to the console and clear it. And click here. So here it says gravity equals 0.05 and adjusted gravity is 0. But this guy still says it seems to be annoying to get off the ground because I'm adding a gravity of 0. Okay, I'm just an idiot. He's complaining because there's a value in there. He doesn't realize that if the value is 0, he should be ignoring it. So if val equals 0, then return. Or not return, continue. Yeah, there we are. That was the problem. Let's go ahead and disable the gravity notes. Begin attack run says it would be just one class for all traits, but each trait would get an instance of the class. I don't know why you'd do that. That seems expensive for no reason. I mean, I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't do it like that, because I can think of a couple times you might want to, but that's like... The traits are universal. You should just reference a global. Either you should reference a prefab that contains all of the information about the trait, or you should just hard code what the trait is and use a string to reference it. Sorry, I'm trying to think of this here. Beginner Techman says, our class is relatively heavy on performance. Not in particular, but I mean, that's really aggressive use of a class when you don't need one. I find that if you are creating classes, you are creating a chance to accidentally desync the state of your class. So if you are trying to reference something that is fundamentally a global, you shouldn't create local copies of the global, because you'll just end up screwing up the global and not understanding why some of your copies have different values. Fundamentally, in almost every case, a trait is a global, and therefore it should just be either hard-coded or it should be something that is global, like a prefab. The other thing I want to do here is the talking heads need to take... well, so I need to have the city actually say something about... whether it's in a crater or whatever, because that's not clear at the moment. I guess I'll go ahead and have them do a random say, not a random say, rather, a talking head resource gather thing based on the crater type of the city configuration as well. There we are. And what we'll do is we will have a thing where we just do that first. Beginner Techman says, okay, thanks in brief, since I don't want to take up too much of your time. How would you go about hard coding something like that? Well, I mean, it depends on the size of your game. I mean, I don't know how you're planning to use traits. If your trait is something like, if they are lawless, then they don't get along with other traits A, B, and C, and they have stat boosts B, D, and F, then what you can do is you can just store every single one of those traits as data. Whether it's a dictionary or an XML file or a JSON file, you can just grab that information when you need it and then process it on the fly. If your traits have in-game script-like events, such as everybody who has the class lawless is constantly being chased around by cops, then you would have to actually write code that understands that lawless is a specific thing with specific outcomes. But if it's all just about wrangling stats and comparing it to other groups, that can be done as a data thing, you know, a file that you write somewhere. And if you don't want to do any file parsing, you can always write it in the inspector. So you could just have, you know, a string value that you fill in that contains all of those modifications if you want to make them like that. Or you could even make it so that your class takes in the same stat block class. So you'd have a class with a stat block object inside of it, and then you could just add that stat block object to the other stat block object. I've done that too. But to be honest, none of these things are something you should do if you don't feel like they're necessary or important. You really should come up with the simplest possible thing you can think of. And I mean, if the simplest possible thing you can think of is 100,000 copies of a class, go for it. I'm just telling you that that's a little bit weird. So what we've got here is we're going to go ahead and compare this. So if emplacement equals favorite city type, then dialog plus equals favorite city type dialog. Here we are. Plus space. So the problem we've got now is that our dialog is actually a little bit too long for our panels. So we're going to go ahead and increase the height of our panels from 60 to 80. And the thing is, I'm not entirely sure that that's going to still leave them clear. We'll find out. Here we can see the evaluate is supposed to take the new city emplacement as well, which we'll just pass it. No biggie. Now what we need to do is have all of these groups have a favorite kind of city. And their favorite kind of city isn't going to affect their stats, but since it's going to affect the stats of the location that they're in, they can just go ahead and, you know, say it like it is. So for example, these people hate radiation, so we want their favorite city type of hillside to specifically say that, oh, hills protect from radiation, so the radiation's lower here. So we'll go ahead and say, oh, a protective hillside, our favorite. And then the insects, they don't like ice or sand. I don't give a shit about them. Heat, sludge, and regolith. Do I decrease heat or increase heat when I'm in a crater or something? Heat times equals 2 when I'm in a crater. See, that's not a very good plan. We're going to go ahead and divide that because otherwise there's, you know, heat's always just going to be a pain in the butt. So this is a crater. We're going to go and say that these guys love craters. And we'll just say sheltered from the sun. Perfect. A crater sheltered from the sun. Perfect. And then the insects don't like ice or sand, and the robots, they don't like gravity, vegetation, or sand. Neither of those things gives even the slightest bit of information as to what's going on, so we'll just pick randomly. Ridge. They do like solar, so that's good. On a ridge, great for solar. And up here on the insect, we'll just pick the last one, which is the flats. A nice flat plane. No strange, chaotic shapes to trip over. And you can ask more specific questions begin attack run if you'd like. The problem is that there's so many things that traits could be used for, and I honestly don't know which thing you're thinking about. So it's difficult for me to give too much exact advice. What we're going to want to do now is take this city and make it so that the solar complains at a substantially the good balance between this thing where we were like, oh, it's a good balance between sun and that stuff. We need to fix that. I just don't remember where it's actually happening. Is it on the planet? It might be on the planet. There it is. So you can see that this is 2, 4, 6. There's clearly something wrong with this in terms of it being a little bit too obvious. So we're going to go ahead and just erase this group and make this 4. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a shot. I'll take a look at a planet and see how well this goes. That nice slow churn from automatically adjusting the scales involved here. So we got a pretty basic moon here. We're going to have to do some remooning later. Let's click in here and see what it has to say. A crater sheltered from the sun. Perfect. But this place would burn our skin off. So nobody really likes this stuff. This planet, this particular city was a waste. And that's fine. We'll click up here and see what we can get. On a ridge, great for solar. We already have a good site for mineral. Oh, and it's even better site for solar. Yeah, that sounds pretty decent. These kinds of places are the easiest places to land on. Oh, that's a nice big city. Wow, these folks really like it. How about some sand in your eye? Nobody cares about that. Okay, so we can now select these guys, but as you can see, nothing happens. What we're going to want to do is make sure that they're clicking on the button actually activates the clicking here on the talking head. There's no click class, no click function yet. We'll just go ahead and create one. And then we'll wire them all up. So to do that, we'll just grab here, boom. and drop the, come on, what the heck was that? Boom. Oh, it was recompiling, that's what it was. And we'll pick out the talking head and click. And we'll need to repeat this. Because I hardwired all this stuff, I can't just use a nice prefab, unfortunately, but there are worse things than having to do 4 pieces of busy work instead of just 1. That's clicking? Yeah, good. Click. Okay, so now we can actually click on them. And so here in the click class, we're going to want, or sorry, in the click function, we're going to want to make sure that we respond appropriately. And there are a couple of kinds of appropriates that we can respond with. One of the things we're going to need to do is have a planet remember whether or not it has already been bid on. So public bool bot equals false. And the reason for that is because here in the, once it's sold, we can't place any more objects on it. So what we're going to do is when we are on the planet settling, we're going to check and see whether it's already been sold. And if it's already been sold, we're going to say you can't do anything. If selected.sold bot. This is else. This planet was already sold. To tell you the truth, we should probably do that up here as well, so you don't zoom in on it. All right, so when we click on them and we want to get some information from them, there are a couple of situations. The biggest situation is, are they actually bidding? So if we're not bidding, then we want to say something specific. Say, hello. Exciting stuff. If we are bidding, then we're going to want to check and see whether our current bid is 0 or less. It shouldn't ever be less than 0, but there's no point in being too restrictive. Say, I don't want this planet. We don't want this planet. Return. Now that shouldn't be possible either because they should be disabled. But we may actually disable the disabling. So yeah, that's probably for the best. Let's go ahead and momentarily and temporarily disable the disabling. Otherwise, we're going to want to actually buy it. Okay, so Begin Attack Run has had some more stuff. They would be used to replace types of parties. I feel like creating a derived type for each party type would be a bad idea. It's basically composition inheritance. So traits like Lawless and Savage would usually be applied to bandit parties, and they would influence a party's AI. The traits do act like globals. They never change. I'd prefer to have them as data. It doesn't make sense to store them in a save file when it's meant to be the same no matter what. Yeah, when it comes to storing data, you can do it any way you'd like. If they have specific results, then you can create prefabs for each of those types. Just, have one trait class, and then you can create instances of that trait class for each type, and then just save them as prefabs or as scriptable objects, and then you can just refer to those. If you can hard code them much more aggressively, like if there's only, say, 8 different types or something similar, you might as well just hard code them based on a string value and not worry about trying to come up with a data schema to try and record all the possible values that you could be putting in. I'm waving my hands around just in case you can see through my screen and see my hands waving. Right. We are selling the planet to this guy. So we'll just go ahead and what we'll do is increase. So we have a couple of things here. We're going to go ahead and increase the max bid every time we do it. I was thinking about making it so that it was like a per solar system visit. Yeah, let's go ahead and make it per solar system. So public float spent this system equals 0. And then in here what we'll do is we will say that this is max bid minus spent this system. And then we'll also do this down here. If current bid is greater than or equal to max bid minus spent this system, max bid. There we are. So we're going to go ahead and say spent this system plus equals the current bid. And then we're going to go ahead and go through all of the talking heads and have them all stop bidding and mark the planet as complete. So in order to do that, we need to know what planet we're around. I don't believe we store it. No, we don't. So we're going to have to like figure out what planet that is and deal with that. For now, however, let's just go through the talking head groups. For each talking head in talking head group dot live dot heads, head dot bidding equals false, head dot bid equals head dot current bid equals 0. We could have them like say something like, oh shucks, if they didn't get the bid. Let's go ahead and just have it as a void that gets called here. No bid. So we're going to say that if head does not equal this, then no bid. Otherwise, we're going to want to just set these up manually. So under no bid, we're going to go ahead and do the same things, but we're also going to have us say something. Say if... Oh, this is not... There we are. If current bid is greater than 10, greater than 10, then say, oh, shucks. Yeah, so if current bid is greater than 10, yeah, random.range 0 to current bid is greater than 10. There we go, that'll do. And that should work. So with that in mind, we are going to have that set up correctly. But we're not currently actually, A, there's no transfer value, and B, we don't know what planet we're doing. So we're going to want to do that on the click master. This thing is global, and therefore we're able to handle this in a variety of ways. We don't actually have it set up as a perfect global, though, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to change the name. The name is bad. Universe. And in start, we are going to have the universe set itself up as the live universe. So, public void awake, live equals this. Begin attack run says, if I did use a database and stored the traits there, I'm assuming I would need to generate a DLL and store it in my assets folder so my code could reference it? Oh, wait, why are you doing that? No, don't actually create a database unless you plan to store, like, image files and stuff. If you're just going to store things like, you know, this particular trait has AI, you know, this AI node gets boosted and, you know, that stat gets raised, just use a text file. You can either use a text file as in an actual like .text or .json or .xml, or you can embed it straight into Unity by just doing a multi-line string value on a class. A database is almost certainly radical overkill for what you need. So, you know, I wouldn't do that unless you want practice with databases. So with the universe, we're also going to store a couple of other values. We're going to go ahead and say public float money equals 100. And then we're going to have a public static float money get a return live.money set live.money equals value. And we're also going to go ahead and have a UI element so this UI element is going to be our money text. Public text money text and price text and desk text. Yeah, so we're going to need 3 text boxes for the various things we're going to be doing here. And in here what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set the money equal to this. So money text.text equals, live.moneytext.text equals live.mathf.floor live.money plus credits. Like that. And we're going to want to set these others up as well. So the description text is going to be just a quick description of the planet. And the price text is going to be how much it's going to cost to plonk a city down. So those values are going to get set whenever we change our setup here in this particular set of groups. So when we're here in our planet highlight and we click on something, we go down into the planet settle. If we go down into the planet settle, we're going to want to pull up the price for our text, for our settling. So for that, we're going to go ahead and actually just have a price value that gets called up. So hold on. Public float city price get if p planet selected. If selected, so if there's nothing selected, then return 0. Otherwise, we're going to want to do a switch selected.planet type. Default equals debug.log error no city types for selected.planet type. Return 0. Case planet type dot moon return 10. Case no, 10 is too high. Return 3. Planet type dot hot return 10. In case planet type dot earth-like return 50. But that's actually not what we want either. So I've just now programmed that, but what we actually have here is a set of cities, and we're not going to want to have the cities here. We're going to want to have the cities on the individual planet types. So we're going to just keep switching things around until it works for us. Public city. So with that in mind, we're going to go over to the city. We're going to want a price on this city. Right. So with that all set up, we're just going to go in and copy a whole bunch of values here. The only question is whether or not we totally botched our... Oh, it's universe. Oh, so there's no universe, right? We have to switch it over so that we have that universe in here. Perfect. So what we're going to want to do is go into each city and set them up, each planet, and set them up with their own city. Now here you can see the city script we've got here. I'm just going to copy that and paste it by default into all of these. And then we're going to just adjust them to whatever we want here. And last thing we're going to want to do with these cities is we're going to give them a multiple. Public float resource multiple equals 1. And that's just going to be something that we multiply every single value by when we go through here in the total resources. So times equals resource multiple divided by total resources. And that will allow us to make the Earth-like cities much more profitable. And the hot planet cities like this. Did I make the Earth-likes 10 or 5? 5. Yeah, it's fine. So that should all work out pretty well in theory. But we're not currently asking the planet for the city that's going to be using. We use a city in here. So if we take a look, you can see I say city.run. We're going to go ahead and say selected.city.run. And we're going to pass it the planet that it's on, which is a little bit of a silly thing to do when you think about it, because it's already on that planet, but whatever, right? And then when we've got that deleted, we no longer need this city price, or we can get it much easier. We'll just go ahead and say, if not selected, return 0, otherwise return selected.getComponent city. Oh, the planet has the city, yeah, so selected.city .price. And we're deleting here, boom. So do I actually keep track of the city? I do. So we need to actually remember to attach those two elements together, because right now we have a planet, but we're not actually sticking the city onto it yet, see? So we're just going to want to drag this city on. I don't believe we actually have to drag it like that, though. I think we can just do a very, very basic drag like this. Nope. Okay, we have to do it. That's fine. Boom. All right, so now we've got all of those cities set up. We're going to want to make sure that we go and display those values whenever we move into the location. So we do this, we go in here and into this system here, into the planet highlight. We're going to want to go ahead and set up our pricing for the cities, for the city. So we're just going to go ahead and say city cost, city price. No, it's, what's the text? Price text. Price text.text equals, and then we'll say city price plus per city, or per settlement. And we're also going to want to clear that out entirely when we are no longer on it. So up here, we'll just go ahead and have that be empty. Price text.text equals there. Find a planet to settle. So the description is going to be the same basic thing, but we're going to be doing it even more aggressively. Description text.text equals, trying to figure out the best way to do this. We'll just go ahead and use the planet type. So selected.planet type, planet. We might refine that later, or maybe not. So if we back off from the planet highlight here, we're going to go ahead and change that as well. There. So we need 3 text boxes that are always going to be visible. And we're just going to create them. We could create them right here in the RoboDex, no reason not to. Just create our own little panel, put it on the far left. Something like that. And we're going to want to just go ahead and staple 3 text boxes to it. The easiest way to do that is to make a vertical layout group, which we'll just have 3 text boxes in it. So text, duplicate, duplicate. And you can see how that automatically tries to figure out what it's doing in there. So now our text boxes are more or less fitting within, and we can have them have enough padding to make it feel right, or vaguely right. And the text boxes currently are top aligned. We're going to go ahead and have them mid aligned. I'm going to want this panel to be opaque, but not completely white, because that would just be hard to see. We're going to go ahead and call this one cache text. And we're going to want this to be bold and darker, because this is the most important text box. And then this one will be planet text, or desk text. And then the last one will be price text. So with that in mind, we're going to go and assign those values to our universe. The last thing we need to do is have those values actually get set up right from the start in Awaken. So we're going to go and say that, sorry, just trying to figure out the best way to do this. This here, so money text.text equals live, that's not how you spell it, money plus credits. And then we'll go ahead and have desk text be scan a planet, and then our city text, it's price text, will be find a planet to settle. Now the only question is whether or not these things are going to actually fit in the text boxes that we've created. Let's find out. Yeah, they'll fit fine. So here you can see that we have 100 credits. We're supposed to scan a planet and find a planet to settle. Let's go ahead and do just that. Hot planet. And see how it says 10 credits per settlement. Right now, we don't have that programmed in, so let's go ahead and program in that thing where we actually charge money for settling. If we are here in Planet Settle and we click, we're going to want to make sure that our text is, our cash is at least enough to afford the city price. So if money is less than city price, then we're going to want to, gosh, that was annoying. Then we're going to want to say stuff here, like, it doesn't look like you can afford that. Okay, so with that in mind, this should work now. I'm not sure if I've forgotten to wire up a particular object. It might be possible that that we don't get cash properly. In fact, I know we don't get cash properly. Let's go ahead. Back over to the talking head here. We actually want to make sure that our current bid gets added to the cash that we've got. And that should be enough. Let's go ahead and see whether this works. So we'll just hop on over to a moon because that's in our starting price range here. Zoop. Ah, the quiet of vacuum. Low gravity, no atmo, perfect transport opportunity. Nobody will get irradiated, but nobody will get solar power either. This is a pretty dang smooth piece of marble that we've got going here, at least until we draw in the rest. So let's go ahead and put in some sand. Now that was 3 credits per settlement, and this person's already offering us 11 credits, right? So that's a pretty good deal. Let's see if we can drive that up by picking another spot like here. Nope, that's still 11 credits. And I don't know if there's any other. Oh, that's red. Look at all this red down here. Well, we can always sell it to these guys, but now we spent $9. But we didn't actually spend the $9 apparently because according to this, we still have plenty. Let's take a look and see whether or not that's actually true or whether we're just not updating properly. Yeah, we're not actually subtracting out the cash amount for these yet. So let's click here. So I clicked and it did work. Our credits went up, but the other units, the other characters didn't actually get debidded. So there's something wrong there as well. Over here in the universe, when we actually do this selected city run, we're going to want to make sure that we subtract out the price of the city. There we are. And we're going to want to make sure that when we actually buy something, we keep up with it. So for some reason, this is not properly triggering, this no bid here. Name plus lost the bid. Oh, we got sparklies. I know someone who likes sparklies. So if we land right on the sparklies, we should get like $15. $22. Ah. I don't think those are counting as sparklies, though. I think those are counting as fire because they're not quite sparkly enough. So we can get 22 credits from that. Let's go ahead and do that. Boom. So we got the credits, but as you can see, the other characters aren't stopping talking. Now, we did say that they lost the bid, so they're correctly being noted. But for some reason, they're not... Yeah, see how it still says they're bidding? It should stop bidding. Bidding equals false. But for some reason, it continues to do the bidding. That's quite strange. These things are specifically being robot. There's the problem. So for some reason, we forgot to actually tell it to go over to the other characters. So it was just doing the robot 3 times, which is dumb and obviously not what we want. The other thing we need to do is remove that. We don't need that gumming up our system anymore. Right, we're getting pretty close to a complete chain. Obviously, some balance issues are left in terms of how much these cities cost and that sort of stuff. Zoop. Okay, so let's go ahead and see whether or not we can get some minerals. Ooh, they like minerals. On a ridge, great for solar. There's no ridge, and that's a little bit iffy. Let's go ahead and take some fire. Oh, 61 credits. Look at that. Oh, they like the sparklies. Those are apparently sparklies. Maybe I've got the code for the sparklies and the fire backwards, because these should be the sparklies. And we'll go ahead and sell that. Boom. So now we have all of that stuff done. And we can just escape. Now if we try and click here, it should say, oh, I forgot to mark the planet as bought. Okay, that's no problem. So over here in the universe, when we are selling the planet, we need to tell the universe that we've sold it. And I forgot to do that. So here in the Talking Heads group, we're going to go ahead and tell the universe that we've sold it. Universe.soldPlanet. Solar, no, sold. And so we're going to go up to the top and create a static. I guess I'll put the bottom, whatever, it doesn't matter. Public static void sold planet. Live.selected.sold.bot equals true. And then we're going to go ahead and that might be all we need to do. I think that's all we need to do. All right, so there's a moon. That's going to be more affordable for us. All right, so this moon is being scanned, and I can do some effects for scanning and stuff. I can also do like a pop-up for sold. Let's do that next. Let's just go ahead and try this out, though. We got $3 per settlement. I think we should be able to make that much cash. So here we got someone who wants it for 7. How about, can we get a little bit more? 12, that's good. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and sell it to you. Boom. And now if we click here, yep, so let's back up. Okay, so we're going to go and do a couple more little things. When we've bought a planet, we're going to go ahead and reduce the planet rendering delay a little bit. There we are. So that should do. And the last thing we're going to want is a big pop-up that says, ooh, the planet was sold. I haven't put the music in yet either. I forgot about that. It should be pretty easy to do. But that might take an hour or two on Saturday. We'll find out. So this is going to be a giant pop-up, and we'll just create our own new canvas for it. Why are you putting it in there? Whatever. Sold pop-up. And we're going to have the sold pop-up contain a panel. Although I say it's going to contain a panel, it's not really. The panel is not going to be the thing we care about. Let's go ahead and make it 600 by 400 and attach it at the bottom. So what we're going to do is this is all going to play out as an animation where it comes up and goes doo-doo-doo. But in order to do that, we're going to need to make it have some cool text, right? So let's go ahead and set this up to have some cool text. Congratulations. And we'll just go ahead and put in the best fit. And we will make it nice and bright here, and then we'll duplicate it and put it inside. And then this one will be black. Oh, wait, white. This one will be white. And we'll move it up. Just a little bit. Boom. Boom. Congratulations. Another text box. Best fit. You sold a planet. Huzzah! We'll go ahead and make this white and shrink it down a little bit until it doesn't feel quite so stupid looking. Congratulations, you sold a planet. Huzzah! And obviously this panel is now the wrong size, but that's something we can shrink. And we might as well try and bring these into the domain here. And now this panel doesn't need to have any sort of visual attached to it. There we are. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create an animation that plays this and then deletes the object. But there is no delete the object button. We can't. There's no function for just deleting an object. So we're going to create a real simple object, which is going to be called the self-destructor. And all it has is a function that can get called to delete you. GameObject.destroy, or destroy GameObject. Boom, like so. No problems. And with that in mind, we're going to need a new animator and that sort of stuff. So we'll go over here. We'll just go ahead and see what it can do on its own here. Assets, animations, sold pop-up. So we've got the sold pop-up animator and the sold pop-up animation. And we're going to just have it like come up and go, and it should be pretty easy, right? I believe that you can actually add sound effects these days to animations, but I don't know, and I don't have any sound effects I want to add. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it. And what we'll do is we'll stop the music when it starts. So it'll be like, you sold a planet. And then we'll start the music back up. It'll be easy. But what we're going to want to do is have an animation where it starts off the bottom of the screen and then comes rushing in, right? And we're going to have it, this panel is what we're going to be adjusting. So just bring it in like, whoosh, and then we'll go, swoosh. I want to make it even bigger, bigger. Okay, so that doesn't seem to affect the text box. Okay, so the problem here is that I have underestimated my own stupidity, as usual. These text boxes actually need to be bound to the four corners of the set here. There we And that way, when we change the panel size, they'll continue to be offset properly. Except for I did all of that while I was recording because I'm a freaking idiot. So we're going to just go ahead and delete some of these things because we don't need them. Okay, we're no longer recording, so we can go ahead and set these up properly now. Well, yeah, that should be fine, right? No, let's go ahead and change the panel size so that it's a little tighter, just because that way when we change the actual objects here, they'll all work fine. Kaboom. All right, now we can start with the recording. So we'll just start off the bottom of the screen and then come rushing up to here. And then after that, we will just float down slightly and radically increase in size. What? Why didn't they increase? Shouldn't that be like much, much larger than it was a second ago? Okay, so congratulations, you sold a planet, but none of the text is increasing in size? How does that work? Didn't I tell it that the text was... Yeah, so this text is huge. This text box is immense, but for some reason the autofill isn't properly... Huh. I mean, the text box is this size. It's enormous, see? But for some reason, the autofill, the rich text, isn't... Well, you know what the easiest solution is to just create a flashy image and use that instead. So that's what we'll do. We'll go over here to the blank. Now hold on while I set this up. I'm going to switch you over to Phoenix Wright for a moment. Oh yeah, it's already set up. So we're going to go ahead and call this congratulations. And we'll come on back to the scene. No, that's the wrong one. That's what we want. I tried to record game footage there for a second, and it wasn't working out for some reason. So we're going to want to change the canvas size to, I don't know, how about 600 by 400? 600 by 300. There we are. And we'll just paste in some more background and put in some text that seems like it'll be fun, right? We got some text. Text tools, hurrah! Okay, it's white text. Let's fix that here. We'll go ahead and make it ridiculous colors. Congratulations. And we're going to want to fix this up so that it is the size and type of text we want. I don't really know what fonts are what. I don't do anything with fonts. Well, I guess Minion Pro seems fine. Nobody's going to yell at me for using a font, in this kind of game at least. And we're going to want to have it be bolded. Boom, congratulations. And then we're going to want to have another text box below that says, you sold a planet. Hold on, it's the same text. We don't want the same text box. You sold a planet. I don't know if you can hear that, but wow, they're playing their music really loud. So this congratulations is a little bit off center. So we're going to just drag it a little bit to the left. And then this guy also a little bit to the left. Here we are, like this. Yeah, like that-ish. This is the wrong color, though. We're going to want this to be white. And this white backdrop, we're going to make it black. Come on, come on. There we are. And this red, we're going to duplicate it. And the front layer is going to be... Hello? Ah, there we are. Oh, and this is going to be white. All, please. There we are. And then we'll just move it slightly so that it is visible against the red. Congratulations. And then we're going to drop these together into a raster layer, thump, and do a mesh distort. And that's not a mesh distort, that's just a common distort. Do I have a mesh distort in this program? We could do a fisheye lens. That's sort of like a mesh distort. Transform, mesh transformation. There it is. And we will just, we just grab some of these elements here and drag them down. Congratulations. And drag some of these guys up. Congratulations. Perfect. Hit enter and then move it down a little bit so that it's squarely in the middle. And then this guy would just move it down. You sold a planet. Perfect. Save. Go back into Unity and delete these text boxes. They are useless. And this panel can just be the image that we're using, which is congratulations, which I haven't set up as a sprite. So we're just going to switch over to sprite, apply, and then over here the panel will be set up as an opaque panel for our sprite. Congratulations, you sold a planet. Perfect. Now we're going to start over with this animation. So you can see that what happens is it comes up and goes, "Roar, roar," and that's pretty right. It's pretty good. Only problem is it's a little too tall, so we're going to bring it down. And it's now it goes, it still goes above 0, but just drag it down a little bit more. Oh, we're not in record mode. That's the problem. So now it goes, and then we'll have it just stay there for a moment. So copy and paste. And then we'll have it sweep aside. Yoink. Like that. And then at that point, we will also call an event for deleting it. Self-destruct. S is for self-destruct. I forgot to add the self-destruct, didn't I? Undo that, please. Doop. And now make that self-destruct happen. Self-destruct, where are you? There you are. So that should work, and it should just look like this. It currently mirrors, but that's unimportant because it self-destructs, so, you know, who cares, right? But what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make this sold pop-up panel something which gets instantiated when you are doing something, you know, when you start. So for starters, let's just put it off the bottom of the screen, just in case the animation has a frame glitch or anything. But what we're going to need to do is drop this into our prefabs list and then delete it. And then here, our universe, we're going to have that that is something we're going to be able to pop into existence. So public game object sold banner. And then down here, we'll just go ahead and create it. Instantiate sold banner. Any problems? Oh. Live.sold banner. All right, now we have to set that up so the prefab is in the right place. God, they're listening to the same songs over and over and over, week after week after week. Boom. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's see whether or not that sold panel works. Oh, sorry, people have been saying things. A Monk of Time came by and said, good evening. He said like an hour and a half ago, and I just missed it. Begin Attack Run says you need to record all of the sound effects for yourself, and then that's what I should use. Maybe. I don't want to spend too much time. It's just a game jam game. And that would add at least 3 more hours to the dev cycle. The music I already have ready. It's just a matter of choosing 4 songs or 5 songs out of the 60 or so that I have available. But the sound effects, I'd have to actually mix them, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. I certainly couldn't do it tonight, or there would be Spanish flamenco from 1984 in the background of every sound effect. Yeah, these moons need to be recreated as well, so I don't think I've got a lot of time to spend just farting around. So these people like their stuff, so we're going to go ahead and sell it right away just to see that banner. Congratulations. Okay, so that was way too fast. Let's go ahead and pull that banner back into existence and fix that animation a little bit because it went shoof. You see how that happened right there? There's supposed to be a long... First off, there's not supposed to be any spinning at this point. So the rotation needs to be anchored. There we are. So congratulations. And then it needs to continue to be anchored over to here. Congratulations. And then there's supposed to be a pause here. But somehow I managed to not have that pause. I don't know whether I overrode it or something. But we'll drag this out. This is supposed to be more like out here at 2 seconds. And then this, I'm supposed to be able to copy it and paste it. Oh. There we are. So with that in mind, it should look like this. That's fine. Good. So with that done, we can delete it again, and now it'll look decent. I'm rather displeased with how the moon looks, but that's okay. It's something I'll have to redo it. So you can see we've only got $8 out of this. Let's see if we can get more. Let's go up here and see. Oh, that didn't get us any more money. If we can't get any more cash out of this, we'll have lost more money than we made. Nope. So we're now losing out on our money, but we can get most of it back by selling it to this guy. Right. So let's go ahead and have them say something if they bought it. So down here, we're going to go ahead and say, thanks. Perfect, right? That should all work. Everything seems to be hunky-dory. I don't see any problems with this. I think that is 90% of what we needed. The big thing left for us to do is the ability to move on to the next solar system. And that's something that I don't have in yet, but I also need to recalculate some of these values and put in music. I think that I'm going to go ahead and stop for the evening unless you guys have specific things you'd like to see. I have to redo the planets, or some of the planets. Why don't I go ahead and redo at least the moons, and then you guys can talk to me with the understanding that this is me winding down for the evening. Begin Attack Run says, how is progress on the galactic line? Well, I paused it for a week to do this, but on the plus side, the basic plan is still perfectly fine. I needed this kind of technology anyway. Obviously, I'll have to do an optimized version of this, though. Anyway, the galactic line is the larger project, and I'm making the salvage game first. Which I can then reuse probably most of the assets from the salvage game to do the galactic line, I hope. So the problem with this planet, first off, I'm going to move it because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There we are. There was stuff on top of it, and it was really annoying me. So the problem with this is that when I made it, I didn't realize that the new noise library was between -1 and 1. So all of my various things that I was creating ended up looking kind of silly. So we're going to create a duplicate of this, and we're going to move the first one away a little bit. And then this one, we're actually going to put in the moon elements that we're trying to use. So the foundation, for example, is surface and foundation. So we're going to drop foundation in, and we're going to drop surface in. Now keep in mind this foundation is not the same as the thing named foundation, confusingly enough. So with these in mind, we can just quickly see whether these still look okay. Okay, they don't. So why is this moving so quickly? Can I get it to move slower? Because this is really, really fast. Come on, let me... I wish there was a way to adjust the movement speed, but apparently there is not. So the problem with this foundation is, this surfacing rather, is that it is taking values that were originally between -1 and 1. So this nasty, choppy visual noise that we've got here is actually it trying to create a value that it likes, that used to be more along the lines of this. So if we take a look at the same value set, you can see that it's now substantially less awful in terms of the choppiness, and that's kind of what we're looking to do. The only other thing we can do here is I actually introduced a new set of values to this. So this here, this surface introduces some height offsets. Why does it have a color offset? There shouldn't be any color offset. What's going on here? Purple? Are you randomizing at the same time, dude? Go away. Stop being an ass. What is with this? Why is there a dot? There shouldn't be any colors here because nothing else is activated. So I'm trying to figure out why this is like this dark color. There's something wrong here. It's doing way too many objects. I can only assume that there's the problem. Our proxies didn't regenerate when I told them. So right now what's happening is the proxies aren't properly regenerating. So here on the planet, when we randomize, we want the proxies to regenerate. Yeah, reload proxies. They're supposed to. Here they are. Proxies.clear, add proxies for so the problem is that add proxies for transform stopped actually. It still checks all of the so if t dot enabled, if t dot game object dot is not active. If not, t dot game object is active. Continue. There we are. So chances are pretty high that we just did nothing useful because I ended up having way too many proxies, and I only needed one solo little proxy. Okay, so that's still not done processing? Really? What the hell? Why is this taking so long? I told it to use fewer proxies, and it appears to have decided to use more? So it didn't stop using proxies. This is really weird. These game objects are obviously off, as you can see quite clearly. And I say that, oh, the kid, idiot. Idiot. There we are. So now it should work, right? That's good. So here is the sort of thing I expected to see, because this is not what I want, and obviously what I expect to see is something that would be not what I want. What we're trying to do here is add some speedy noise to it. If we take a sample of it, you can see that it's quite faint. There's not really very much depth to it. Did I mistakenly put this at less than 1? Yeah, this is like 0.2. So we're going to go ahead and move that up to like 0.7. And now when we sample it, it should be substantial. Yeah. Let's also go ahead and change this back down to 0.5 so that we don't have that full size delay. So we're also going to want to add a new complex biome component. These didn't exist until I created them. I think I did it off screen. It's not nothing terribly difficult, but basically it's the same as a normal biome color thing, except I can specify a set of colors. So that will allow me to create a bunch of slightly more varied Mooner colors than we were doing before, and that's going to be kind of fun, right? And then we'll just do a perfectly flat gray. So we're going to want to paint this height. And the question is, do we want to paint the tops or the bottoms? And I think that what we're going to want to do is paint the tops. So we're just going to go ahead and set it up to only paint things that are above a certain level. If we look at the moon, the moon-like object itself starts at just below middle. So all of this stuff is going to be above the middle, even if it's a relatively faint situation. So with that in mind, when we randomize, we get this kind of situation where we get some color offset highlands. And you can see that it's going to be a slightly different set of colors each time. None of them look too distinctive, but they don't have to, right? So that's going to be our surfacing element. We're going to go ahead and hit apply. And then we're going to hide that and bring out our foundation element. In fact, let's delete the foundation element and re-add it so that it doesn't have a weird name. There we are. Now, if we do a randomize here, I believe that the foundation element is using really, really old stuff. Yeah, basic noise elements. You can see that. Now, we do have a crater texture noise element to it, but the crater texture noise isn't really set up right, I think. I certainly don't see it actually having impacted at all. Let's try again here. Crater, where's the crater? Now I fixed the texture stuff so that they should work. So I'm not sure why this isn't working. However, I think that we can safely say that this is bogus. It's just not working. It's also using the default Perlin noise, which is both more boring and slower. So we're going to want to add in some new values here. We will use the speedy noise, and let's go ahead and use something fun like cellular. Now, how about cubic fractal? Let's go ahead and take a look at the cubic fractal. And you can see that this cubic fractal is not very fractally. Well, to be honest, that's probably fine. What happens if we change it to cubic, though? Do we get a different... okay, so the problem was that we hadn't actually hit randomize. All right, so that's a little bit more fractally. We're going to go ahead and increase the scale to 480. That's better. That's much better. All right, so I think maybe 580 is a better option. I'm just picking random numbers here to get something that seems like it's going to be hilly, as you can see. We're not going to be overriding, we're going to be adding. And we're going to be applying it to any height and with no particular noise map. This will create some maxed out values, but that's fine. What we're going to do is add in a complex biome. We might as well add in the same complex biome. Copy. And then paste. Now this gets applied to high elements. Now we're going to go ahead and see how that looks. And you can see that the result is a gently mottled sphere. And that's nice. That's good. So that's going to be that. Save that. Now these two things are no longer needed. We're going to call over this original foundation object. This foundation object is actually just split between those two. So now we'll get a random underlying noise field every time we hit randomize. These craters, turn them on, see what's up with them. As far as I understand, the craters are, I actually don't know if they're any good or not. If we take a look at the speedy noise here and we sample it, you can see what that looks like. That's not supposed to be what it looks like. Those don't look like craters. But I think what I'm going for here is not actually craters. It's a heavy cratered field. The problem is that I actually don't remember what this is supposed to do. This just like creates a crawling mess though. I mean, if I run this, we're just going to see a crawling mess. See? And that's, I mean, that's not necessarily bad looking, but it is a little bit overly aggressive. I believe that the idea was that I was gonna, I don't know, I don't think I was supposed to have craters here, because I think that the effects were supposed to cover that. So if I unlock these effects, these are 5 objects: fast cracks, heavy craters, weathered face. So we're gonna lock them again and bring out those 5 objects. First, let's take a look at fast cracks. Fast cracks B is a very similar group. And then we're going to look at heavy craters, weathered face, surface. Surface we've already done. So heavy craters, weathered face. The weathered face is the one I think I need to fix. And discoloration. So first things first, this discoloration, it uses a basic biome here. That's not going to be a basic biome. We're going to switch that out immediately for a complex biome. Darn it, I can't just have that work. Can I copy the component and then paste in the values? Oh, curses! Okay. That means I have to manually copy it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. The applied height looks like it is just a standard rising scale, like that. It's being applied to red. Apply smoothness of slightly above 0. Yep, that should do it. So we'll remove this. And we will add in some colors. Start with just 1, and then we will make it that same reddish orange. There we go. But we're going to want, say, 5 more colors. And we're going to want to have these be kind of interesting colors, I think. So we're going to make them darker and somewhat more unusual. But we're also going to put in just a blinding white. Just fun. Just for fun. There we are. Like that. So those should be decent. Now the question is whether or not this Perlin noise is any good. If we take a look, what this does is it creates an area that is going to get affected, and then it gets softly discolored. It's actually not very soft. It's pretty aggressive. But it gets discolored by that amount. Now the reason that it's pretty aggressive is because originally I was cutting out the bottom half, and I'm no longer doing that. So we're going to go ahead and put in this guy. There we go. And now when I sample it, you can see that it's much more restricted. That's more like it. So with that in mind, that should now be fine. We're going to just apply that. I guess we can test it. Just hide this stuff here and see what's up. So the idea is this is going to create the subtle gradients that you find in, planets that are interesting. I don't even know if you can see that on YouTube, but there's some unusual spots of color. They're not real sharp, and they're not supposed to be. And that's the fun. So discoloration is good. This weathered face is what's on the next menu item. We're going to go ahead and hide these values here. Weathered face, it clears out the red and then uses everything red. So it doesn't care about the current height of the system. If we hit randomize here, that is not a face. That is an entire moon. I think the problem is pretty obvious. I'm including twice as much noise as I used to, so we're just going to go ahead and modify that. There we are. So that restricts the amount of weathering rather nicely, but begin attack run says to get back to the trait stuff. If I were to use a scriptable object, then I would store it in the project as an asset file. And then I could have a party's list of traits draw from the assets data. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, all that stuff should work. You should be able to save references to scriptable objects or prefabs. They're basically the same thing. But when you're serializing them, you have to be careful not to accidentally... No, it should be fine. It should be fine. If you run into problems serializing them, then you might have to work around them. But you're not doing any complex late loading or anything, so I think it'll be fine. You should be able to store a reference to them automatically without even thinking about it. I think. It's been a while since I've tried it, and we're now into a whole nother digit of Unity levels, you know? So this basic... wait, hold on, that's not what I wanted. That's the basic biome change. Undo that. Okay, so the weathered face is still at 0.5. Yeah. We're going to do this height remapper. That's all fine. Speedy noise, apply to height noise map. Here's the noise map I need to change. So let's see if this produces a weathered face. Ah, there we are. That's the weathered face I'm used to. So you can see the issue here is that it actually has this rather crisp edge. What we're going to want to do is up here on the speedy noise map, we're going to just make this so that it is a rather more elegant scale up. Ah, that's better. So that's going to be like the weathered face that we have for our object. Now when we weather it, we add in a basic biome and then we channel crush it back into height. That should be fine. It doesn't create the amount of chop I might like. But inside of the weathered face is another game object with a couple more objects. This adds in some purlin noise at the 0 level on the red. So if we take a look at that, you can see how tight that is. And then what happens is we add in another biome at the 0 level. So in theory, what should happen is that this dark green biome should overwrite this slightly less dark green. And we should end up with a kind of mottled coloring. If we take a close look here, that's not happening. And the reason it's not happening is simply because we've changed the heights involved with our very soft fade. So we're going to go ahead and create this offset to be a lot more loose. Well, let's go ahead and make it like something that's or a really obvious color so that we can see what's happening here. Okay, so it's not happening at all. Well, that's easy enough to keep tweaking, I suppose. There we go. Oh, I see what's going on here. This is not actually what I intended it to do at all. So this speedy noise that we're trying to add here, I'm going to go ahead and copy that component and drag it over into our weathered face and then delete this game object. And the reason for that is because if I do this before we do the channel crusher or this basic biome, it should change some of the values. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, okay, so that affected too many of them. I just want to have like a teeny tiny little bit of noise. So the speedy noise here, we'll do a noise map where it is substantially less noisy. There we are. That's like what I want. Decent. All right. So we're going to go ahead and call that decent. But we do want to make sure that this color here is a little bit less aggressive. It's just a little too dark. Yeah, it's a little bit better. It might be a little too light now. There we are. And we'll just go ahead and save that. Apply. Boom. And then we'll delete it. Go down to fast cracks. I don't actually remember anything about fast cracks, except for that there are two variants. Okay, so that's fast cracks. That looks fine. We'll just go ahead and leave it as is. The heavy craters. Now these should be the textured craters that we pound into the surface. But as you can see, only sometimes do they actually get put onto the surface. Now the weird thing is, I actually have these set up with very little in the way of like lost elements. These should be they should be all over the place. They should like just exist everywhere on the planet. This whole thing should be cratered to hell, but for some reason they're not they're not cratering. We're getting some of these slash marks. The slash marks are these final... Wait. Where are these slash marks coming from? These are supposed to be craters. Did I overwrite the crater with the slash marks? Yes, I managed to overwrite the crater with the slash marks. No wonder the crater stopped working. God damn it. All right, well, let's recreate the crater. So that's annoying because I actually had a pretty good crater. Oh well. Oh, it's white first, that's right. Let's paint it gray first so that we can actually see what we're doing. So there's the rise at the edge of the crater, which I'll put in like this, and then in the middle of the crater it's very dark. Like that. And then what we'll do is we will paint in some bright lines in the middle. Fatter than that, please. That will make them out of rough pencil. That will make it on a new layer as well. Boom. And we'll just put in some hack marks, and then we'll also put in some streaks and some debris. That'll do. And then we'll do some black lines for everything that comes out after that. Monk of Time asks me what program I'm using. This is Clip Studio Paint. It's extremely good. And then we'll just do a little bit of soft erasing because they're a little bit too sharp right now. There we are. And then we'll hide this gray and save. I was wondering why that wasn't working, and the answer is because I managed to screw it up. That's why it wasn't working. Let's go ahead and see whether or not this works. There we are. So obviously this looks a little bit dumb in this particular instance because the craters are at the poles and they're not really built to survive that. But you won't be able to see the poles in the game. They'll just look like that to you. So that should be fine. That's fine. We're going to actually go ahead and delete this because I changed some of the settings and I didn't have to. There are a couple more values here, like heavy scratches, but I think that that's all we really needed to modify. So we didn't actually have to modify the moon itself at all. We only had to modify some of the components inside the moon. So if we go and search for a moon, well, there's no moon. Fine. If we go and search for a moon, there we go. Click on a moon. So you can see that there are some issues with the normal map being extraordinarily aggressive. I'm going to go ahead and try and figure out why that normal map is so choppy. This moon is in the first gas giant, and I believe it is the first moon. This one, right? You can see how it's got this same weird effect that I was talking about before that I don't like. And so we're going to try and track down why this is. We're going to do it by just checking. This is definitely it. So if we take a look at what's going on here, the foundation is this guy, just foundation. So that's what's getting called there. If we delete the rest of these elements, boom, and we tell the moon to rerun, what's going to happen? Okay, so it wasn't that. It was something else. Let's go ahead and try one more time. We'll just keep looking until we find what's causing the issues. This one also has this mottled surface. See, you can already see what's this weird thing I'm talking about. This is the first Earth-likes moon-like. Is this it? Yeah, that's it. Oh, they've all got craters still attached. That might be what the problem is. Yeah, that is it. Okay, I forgot to delete the craters. We did, in fact, change the moon around. We deleted the crater object from it. And that crater object was the one thing I specifically said, oh, look, this is like all errored out and shit. Yeah, so obviously we should delete it. Yoink. And boom. All right, so this is a fairly interesting looking moon, but it doesn't look like it's weird and super choppy. And that was the problem I was having before. It was like just this strange, super choppy moon, like it had been covered in spider webs or something. Boop. Although I have to admit, this one seems pretty oddly low res, doesn't it? Very smooth surface, I guess. That's not too bad, I suppose. So we can just set this up to do anything we want, really. Look, 25 credits. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and sell it. Boom. Congratulations, you sold a planet. And we're going to go ahead and back off because we sold that planet. Yoink. Boom. And we can go into the green planet. Shoof. Yeah, I think I like how everything looks now. I might do a little bit of work on the red planet, but at this point, the big thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some music, and I've got to make transferring between solar systems a thing. So that's going to be the things that I do next. But I know that this has ice. Ice. We have no interest in this planet? Do you have no interest in this planet? Because you look like you're bidding 15. Did the bids not go down to 0? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and deal with this some other time. Go ahead and go off and do something interesting with the rest of your Friday. I will see you probably tomorrow. If you come back, I'll definitely be streaming again. Got to finish this game up, and I plan to finish it up by the end of tomorrow, release it on Sunday. Thank you for your time. Now, where is the stop button?